Then we introduced another subject. There's what's called Shavuos. So a lot of people don't realize that turning on a light on Shabbos, or certain things like that,
But also turning off the light.
turning off the light as well. Those are all malachas. So those are all like pretty serious. And those are like, oh, what do you mean? It's nothing. I just flicking the light off. Yesterday we introduced an idea called the Shavuos. So a lot of people don't realize, like, they don't realize how many things that they would need to do and how long it would take for them to learn how to do those things, because there's so many details and they're all important. I'm not desensitizing any of it. Then we introduced a concept yesterday called Shavuos. Shavuos means it's not a malacha. But the rabbi said, we don't want you to do it because it will lead you to do a malacha, or it's similar to malacha. So we said yesterday, for example, there were a lot of details. And they're not liable of anything. They're exempt. But you shouldn't do them. And it was very surprising. We just did for 10 minutes yesterday, but you have, like, let's say, if you're not allowed to pick fruit on Shabbos. What if the fruit fell already? You can't take it because the rabbi said, maybe you'll say, hey, that was a good apple. Let me get another apple. Said you can't spit on the ground outside, not on like solid ground, but on like soft ground, and wipe with your feet, because you may come to fix something in the field. So these are called Shavuos. So we're going to go through some of those today, and they're very interesting.
I do have a quick
Yeah,
question
sure.
for you. So I'm going to do as much as I can.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if you're doing it 2 days,
Right.
so like that's what I'm saying. It's like, let's say, if you're going to be in a hotel, if you know that you can set up the lights before Shabbos, then then it's easy.
Right.
But if you don't know, then it's like,
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I want to be aware of all.
yeah.
these
So I'm
things.
sure your sister-in-law is really aware of them.
Yeah, and I'll be asking her. And
Yeah,
talking to her
yeah.
about. But here's a couple of things. One, I don't want to leave my credit cards and everything like that in my room. So I really want to carry them, and I know it's not supposed to do that. But then also too, they give you a card that's a key to your room. I have to carry that. What do I do?
So ask her what she does. It's an interesting question. So first of all, most hotel rooms have a safe. If you feel comfortable with the
Yeah.
safe, or in your car, or different things. But or you can leave things at the front. I don't know for sure what she does. Likely what she does is she just tells them before, hey, every time I walk in, would you be able to just open the door for me? And they come and they open the door for her. That's likely what they do. They have the key to your room, So likely what they do is they just open it for her. Sometimes what people do is they, obviously everything has cameras. Sometimes people do is they'll tape over the sensor so the door stays open. If you have a valuable thing there, you might not feel comfortable doing that. So usually what people do is they'll tell people in the front, and it's even here in Prescott, if you go to the hotel 2 blocks away and you tell them, they'll be like, oh, you're Jewish. They know that because people have done that. Where you just walk in and they say, oh, this guy walked in, here, come with me, and they take you to your room and escort you to your room. And if you think about it, they're fine, like they're happy to do it. They're not at all like, this is so annoying,
Sure.
So that's typically. But ask your sister-in-law what she does. There's all, sometimes certain hotels have a physical key. So you can ask them, for Shabbos, can I use the physical key? Usually not. It used to be they did.
Yeah.
Usually not.
The doors now are all electronic.
Yeah, so usually what you do is, what I do is I just tell them, I'm not going to be able to open the door, and most hotels nowadays, they know, like, oh yeah, okay, I got you covered. But you can ask your sister. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. So if you leave bread in the oven and the oven's on, but in the olden days, the way ovens were, they were like a cylinder, and then you would stick the bread on the side of the cylinder. So the rabbi said, you're not allowed to put bread in to bake, but what if you left bread in? So also nowadays, thank God, technology, we have like tons of things that we use for Shabbos, which make things easier. But in the olden days, they had these cylinders. You put bread on the side. You have a pita, a lafa, and then you want to take it down. So the rabbi says you can't take it down on Shabbos, even though it's already baked, even though you're not baking it, because we're worried once you do that, you're going to bake more. Maybe you'll.
Isn't it normal that people are gonna make all their food the day before, including baking their bread?
So usually yes,
So
but
why would they even consider baking bread on Shabbos?
well, no, before Shabbos. You put it in before
Right,
Shabbos.
right.
So you forgot to take it out,
Oh, I
you know? So the rabbi said you can't take it out. However, they did make an exception. They said, let's say that was your food for Shabbos. We will let you take out as much as you need for Shabbos. And you could tell other people, hey, you could take out also. But no more, they didn't want you to take out because they're worried that once you're messing with the oven and the stove. So we do special precautions. If what we do is, like, let's say you want hot food on Shabbos at night or the next day, there's certain things you can do to set up your oven and stove to leave it on and keep the food warm. So that's just, they were worried, like certain people, whatever, people would forget. All right. But they said you still shouldn't do it with the proper tools. You should do it with different tools. Not, don't stick your hand in there, but use a knife instead of whatever they.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did the rabbi say? Now the rabbi said this is an interesting law that people aren't aware of. You can't go into a bathhouse on Shabbos. Why can't you go into a bathhouse on Shabbos? Because a lot of times bathhouses are owned by non-Jews, and they say, "Oh yeah, we heated this for you yesterday." So the problem is we didn't want them to heat for us today. So they said no more Jews going to bathhouses, even if you're just going to the sauna, because you don't want people to turn it on for you. And they also said you shouldn't wash your whole body with hot water, even hot water that was heated from before Shabbos. But your face, hands, and feet you could. So they didn't want us to take full showers on Shabbos. When do we say this? With we're talking about heated water, like from an element. But let's say you go to hot springs, then you could go in. The rabbis didn't let you go to hot springs, which are in caves, though, because in caves it has steam, and then you'll mix up with the bathhouses. So again, you can't go to a bathhouse. So nowadays, the practice for most people is they don't take showers on Shabbos. If they do, they take cold ones. Because they don't want to heat the water up. But if you have hot water left over, you can wash your hands, feet, and face. So just interestingly enough, we put a hot water urn, to have hot water on Shabbos. We like to drink hot water the whole Shabbos. Different people have different hacks what they do with their water heater to make it usable on Shabbos. I don't.
Well, you can actually turn it off on Shabbos, so the water that was heated up the day before will still be actually rather warm.
So,
and you won't, and even by using it, it won't turn the water heater back on.
So some people do that. There might be potential problems with it because if the water empties out and so new cold water comes in, then that water heats up with the water there. I've heard what some people do is they take like a faucet and they leave one of their faucets on the whole Shabbos on low hot water. So it's constantly, I don't know. Those are, it's funny because in Lake Havasu, the rabbi there asked me, he said, what do I do in the summer if I can't get cold water on Shabbos? Because it gets so hot in the summer that the water is hot.
I've lived in places.
Yeah, so he's like, can I turn off the cooler, the hot water heater, and I'll have cold water in there. Maybe I'll have cold water in there for Shabbos. Okay. This is another interesting thing. If you can heat up next to a bonfire. You can warm up, and you can go and wash your body in cold, but you shouldn't rinse your body, your whole body, and go next to it because you're going to heat up the water. Right? So it says like basically if you're cold, you can go next to a bonfire, but you shouldn't cover yourself with water and then go next to the bonfire. Okay. If you bring a pipe of cold water into hot water, so you have, so now let's say I say, hey, I have an idea. Here's a cold stream and here's a hot. Let me bring the hose and it'll go through the hot stream and it'll heat up. That's not allowed. Even though you can go in the hot water of the spring, the rabbis didn't want you to heat up cold water. A person can take a pitcher of water, put it next to a bonfire, not to get hot, but to not be cold. And similarly, you can put oil next to a bonfire in order so it should not be cold. But you can't do it. You can't cook it. And you can wipe your hands with water or oil and put them next to it. And this is that you don't, it doesn't get too hot. What is the heat of too hot in Jewish law, enough to burn a baby.
Wow.
If it burns a baby. Now, what is that? It's a dispute, but they say it's about 107 100 to 110 degrees.
Wow.
So
That's pretty hot.
That's pretty hot, but we drink coffee hotter than that.
I know,
if you go to
but,
Starbucks,
but
correct.
I know some people won't take showers that hot.
Correct. Well, so that is the amount for the average Joe. And you can, a hot tub. If a hot tub is not like over 105, it's not comfortable. And you can heat up a garment and put it on your stomach on Shabbos. Let's just finish up. Okay, a bath of a merchatz. So you have a bath which is full of hot water. You can't put cold water in because what you're going to do is you're going to heat up the cold water. Right? You got that? And similarly, you can't put oil in it because you're going to cook the oil. But you can put hot water into a cold bath. Because the cold bath, it's okay to cool down water, but it's not okay to heat up water. All right, can we do one more? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. If you have a heater that you had water in it, like a pot, you could put in a cold water to cool it down. And you can also put hot water into cold water or cold water into hot water as long as it's not a clearation. So this is another interesting law, which it doesn't change your life that much, but it could change. I'll tell you in a second. Similarly, if you have a hot pot and you take it off, you shouldn't put in spices because spices cook really easily. But you could put salt because salt doesn't cook except in those salt. Actually, a burning point of salt is like 2,000 degrees or something. I don't know if you've ever seen a video online. They heat up salt and it explodes. Yeah. But if you take a hot thing from a pot and you put it into a plate, even though it's very hot, you can put spices because it's a cliche. Okay, so the rambam introduces an idea, and I'm just going to go through because it's extremely relevant. So let's say you want to make tea on Shabbos. So you can't heat up the water on Shabbos, right? But let's say you left a pot on before Shabbos, or you have a hot water urn like that. So now you can't stick the tea in because it's going to cook the tea. So what do? You take hot water, and then from the thing, and then you pour that into another cup. So you pour it straight into one cup and then into another cup, and then it's not considered cooking, because the Jewish law is that the outside of the cup cools it down. So let's say coffee on Shabbos. When we make coffee every day, we have an espresso virtuo system, which we really like. That's electric. That has a lot of issues. So on Shabbos, most Jews drink instant coffee because instant coffee, it doesn't need to be really hot, and it doesn't really cook it. We started lately drinking real coffee, but how do I make it on Shabbos? I fill up a cup, I take a coffee and I put it in one of those pour-overs, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Then I put coffee in it, I fill up a cup of hot water, and then I pour that over the filter. So now the coffee is getting from a cup that got from the urn.
Right.
So that is the proper way to do it. And then there's a lot of things you can do on Shabbos with hot water. If you do it not directly from the element, pour it into a cup and then into another cup. And that's called cliche, and that's what the Rambam just said. So he said you can't put spices into a pot, because basically, let's say you have a really hot pot of chicken, and you pour spices in it, it's going to heat up the spices. But once you put the chicken on the plate, you can put spices, because when it changes the vessel, it becomes no longer as hot. So that's the interesting thing. I'm sure your sister-in-law does that as well.
Actually, I don't know exactly what she does. I know that she does all her cooking the day before.
Yeah.
But how she gets things hot, I don't know.
So to get things hot, what people do on okay, so there's two things. Getting hot on Friday night is really relatively simple, because you start Shabbos and you can take it off the fire right when Shabbos starts, or you can leave it on the fire. So what a lot of people do is they leave it on a small flame on their stove, and this is an advantage of a gas stove. A glass one will crack eventually, but you leave on this is what common practice is. You leave on a small flame, and then you have to you're not allowed to put things directly on the flame, as we said earlier, so you put in like a sheet metal, and that's very common. So then you can leave that on, and you can even leave on something to the next morning. So you leave on a small flame, and you put on sheet metal. That's called a blech. That's one thing that people do. Another thing people do is they get, and this is very common in Israel, they get what they call a plata, a hot plate. A hot plate is a plate, well, you can get ones that don't heat up to cooking. They heat up to 105. And then they leave stuff on that. the whole Shabbos cooking. Another thing is a crock pot, a slow cooker, is a very good way of, you can put stuff in the next day. The only thing is it gets tricky when you want to take something off. You have to know that if you let go of it, you can't put it back on. So I'm sure she uses one of those options.
Yeah, I never paid attention. Every time we got
Yeah,
invited
no,
over,
well, it's like
you know,
Shabbos is a work in progress. It's not like all these laws, you can't pick them in one day. And like a lot of times people want to convert to Judaism. Now, if you convert to Judaism, you got to do everything. And they say like, oh, it's going to take like 2 years to convert. No, 2 years, I can't wait. But the reason why they're doing that is because there is no way to keep all this in 2 weeks. And if you figure out how to do everything for Shabbos in 2 weeks, now again, you don't have to cook. You can go to someone's house, and you don't have to, turn on the light, So they do like they require you to take a long time because the only way of doing it is like by making like a lot of mistakes. And there was this guy in Venezuela when I was there. Now in Venezuela, everybody has a live-in maid who cooks the food. People barely cook. So he wanted to become kosher, and his dream was that one of the rabbis should eat it in his house. So it took him like 5 times that the rabbi came to his house ready to eat and said, "Oh, you made a mistake with that thing, we made a mistake." And the guy, persisted, and eventually he said it was the happiest day of his life. The rabbi came, he checked everything, and he said, "Yes, I can eat here," And we're talking about someone who was Orthodox and just, he just wasn't aware of all the details of kosher.
I'm starting to try and keep kosher.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
It's very, very difficult.
It's hard. It's hard to keep
and
kosher.
I'm still debating about whether I'm going to convert my kitchen to kosher or not.
Well, so I'll tell you, like, if you would keep kosher in 24 hours or Shabbos in 24 hours, that would be belittling kosher and belittling Shabbos. Here you have this gift from God where God is like, I have this great thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I'd knock it off in 24 hours. That belittles it. There is a book called Going Kosher in 30 Days, which I saw. I never read it. I don't know if it's good. But, like, you have to do it in stages. In stages. And, even if your pots aren't kosher, so your food isn't kosher, it's still worthwhile to keep kosher in non-kosher pots because you have to find food that you like. And you have to be able to, like, I think keeping kosher is, in a certain sense, easier than people think, because like people think there's nothing to eat, and they don't realize there's.
Actually, I've been taking lessons from Ivy.
Yeah, well, so she's been doing it for a while, and when she moved here, she said, I'm moving to a new house, so I'm going to make a kosher kitchen because also that's another easy when you have like a new, generally speaking, when you have like a new transition stage in your life. It's an opportunity to start new things because it's like if you're gonna need to buy a new oven, like okay, let me.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely a good thing, and
it's difficult, right?
Yeah.
For me anyway, because I've never kept kosher at all in my entire life, so I've got 65 years of bad habits to undo.
Well, so it's difficult. If it wasn't difficult, it wouldn't be as godly. It was like when people come and say like, oh, I can do that, it's easy. It's like, really, here's this like immense thing that God wants that rabbis spend years studying, and you're like, oh, I do it in 1 week, So here it's tough to keep kosher in the sense. Well, it's easy and tough. It's difficult because like if you lived in a big city, then you could eat out a lot and you could buy pre-made stuff.
And also I eat a lot of vegetarian, so.
Oh, you do a lot of vegetarian.
I've always been a chicken, fish, and turkey person, and I know now that I can get turkey and chicken at
Trader Joe's.
At Trader Joe's, and I can also get salmon at Costco.
Yeah, I'm a really big fish person. I actually cook a lot of different types of fish. If you need any recipes, I can tell you. We eat a lot of fish. We eat meat as well. We order in bulk, but that's just because we have like a lot of turnaround. Like when I buy a case of chicken, it's gone in like 3 weeks because we have First Fridays and this and that. It's just gone.
Right.
But yeah, chicken, turkey they have at Trader Joe's. Fish, so fish is interesting. Not all fish is kosher, but salmon is kosher, and anything with scales on it is kosher. So that's
So one of the things I really like are sandwiches. So we can't get sliced
like
meats
cold cuts.
that are kosher down here. But then Ivy and I were talking, and I'm thinking maybe I'll take a drive down to Phoenix occasionally, like
I do that. I do that.
And so I could also pick up something for you.
Yeah,
also.
well, if you want to order, I also
I need to know where though. So maybe,
there's someone in the community also
Oh.
that can use some money. So a lot of times I hire him to go, and it's a mitzvah to hire him because he can really use it, and he likes to drive and everything. So once in a while I do that, and if you have a specific item that you want to freeze, then you can tell me, and I can get like order a big box. There's an order that I can have access to that I can get like big boxes on Tuesday mornings. So if you have a big item that you need, I don't know. I'll give you an example. Let's say
I have to know what I want, and I have to know if it's available.
yeah. So like let's say you like bologna. I'm just saying, for example, I'm giving you an example. Sure. Let's say you like bologna. So if you order it in bulk, it'll be a little bit cheaper, and also you'll have it for a while. It'll be expensive because like a lot of times people don't realize it's like if you order brisket in bulk, it's $500, but it's a lot. It lasts a long time. I just had experience that someone once wanted a ribeye steak, so I ordered them for them, and it was like $500. It's like, well, yeah, it's like 30 steaks. That's
Right.
but and it was very well priced. But if you have something in bulk that you want, I can order for you, and then it will come. It'll come, and then you freeze it. If like you don't need like.
So is it delivered from Phoenix then?
It's delivered to Phoenix, and then
Where are you ordering it from?
there's like different, because kosher food in Phoenix, there's not a lot of options of cheaper kosher meat in Phoenix. So there's certain businesses from out of town that send a truck in once a week, once every couple of weeks, and you can go on the list to order. So I'll give you an example. Like I started ordering. There's this order that comes in every Tuesday morning, and I order like, let's say Sunday, Monday, and it comes in Tuesday morning, and I need to get someone to pick it up, but I either hire somebody, or I usually pay like $100 to $150 to hire, so I have to make it worth it to
Right.
get enough stuff. I look at that money as kind of a tzedakah, but it, it's still a lot. So, but what you could do is, let's say you want smoked turkey, so you can get like, let's say, individually packed, vacuum packed packages of it. A case of it might be 20 packs, and then you have it in your freezer. So that is possible to do. I've spoken with Ivy before. I've done it somewhat for her. She eats a very narrow amount of food, so she doesn't need much. So she's always like, I don't need a bulk case. But like, I like ordering bulk. I like having the freezer stocked with whatever it is. But yeah, there's bologna. Bologna's made out of chicken.
The nice thing is I have a freezer full of non-kosher food. It's going to all go in the trash eventually.
Well, you can give it away. Give it to
pretty
charity.
much what I meant.
Yeah, I people sometimes donate non-kosher
A
food
lot
here.
of this is already freezer burned.
Is it meat?
Some of it's chicken.
So here's another interesting thing. One time someone came to me and they said, "I need to speak with you." I said, "My kids are nuts. They're vegan. What can I do to help them? I don't want them being vegan." So I told them, I'll start Tanya in a minute because I have to leave this in. But they were vegan, and I said, wait. I said, you don't keep kosher. Your kids keep kosher. They're like, no, they're not religious. It's like vegan is kosher, right? Vegan is kosher, at least minimally. If it doesn't have a kosher symbol, at least minimally. If someone keeps vegan, according to some opinions, they for sure keeping kosher. We go for kosher symbols. So like something that's vegan may have been cooked with something not kosher, and you might not know it. If something is less than 2% non-kosher ingredient, it doesn't have to be listed in the ingredient list, right? Now in Jewish law, it has to be less than 1.5% to not make the thing non-kosher. So anything can have not kosher in it. But vegan is kosher. If there's something that you specifically like and want, let me know. So I could tell you, like, for example, so bologna is made usually from chicken. I don't know what non-kosher bologna is usually made from chicken. They have many types of turkey pastrami, smoked turkey, They make
Yeah, I'm
turkey.
just into turkey and chicken and fish. That's pretty much
Yeah,
all.
I'm saying the cold cuts. They have many types of those, and then the rest is beef. But that they have like every turkey invention. Like there's like a million types of turkey.
Yeah, I make turkey meatloaf too, so.
So they have ground turkey also. I mean, and
Yeah.
and, and they also sell kosher turkey drumsticks.
Oh,
So yeah, I
I
mean,
didn't know that.
yeah, there's a big kosher industry. The thing is, if you're gonna buy turkey kosher drumsticks, probably 12 drumsticks or something like that. Okay, let's go. All right, so here's what we were talking about last week. We said, and I don't know if you were here last Wednesday. We got in a
I
very.
was.
Were you here last Wednesday? Oh, we were talking about end of life, right? Okay, well, how did we get into that? Because we said that. Okay, so now we said when you think about how God is in every situation, and He's not waiting for you at the exit. He's with you in that situation, and we explained two parables to think about how something can exist, but it doesn't really exist. And that's what we're saying. The world exists, but it doesn't really exist. It's really just God material formed in different ways. So we said then you'll be very happy because you're always close to God. And that's what we got in the conversation. Paul was asking, he's saying, wait, how do I know what choice to make? And what choice you make doesn't really matter because God can always change things. The only thing that matters is, am I making the godly choice or the non-godly choice? That's what matters in life. It's like when you make the godly choice, you made the right choice. When you make the non-godly choice, even if it makes a lot of money, it's the wrong choice. That's what we were saying. So we said, now we'll continue on. This is the purpose of the world. The purpose of the universe is to make God present here. To make God present here. And realize that God is present here. And through realizing it and being conscious of God being in the world, as we said before, that reveals God here. And that fulfills the purpose of the world. So the purpose of the world always comes down to either two things. Either myself, my comfort, or to God. And the true purpose is always ultimately God. How happy is somebody if a king comes to stay in his house and hang out with him and be open to him? How much more so that God, the King of Kings, is present with us in our home. So, all right. So, it's not, there's one type of guy who has to go to visit the king. You go to the palace, you visit the king. You feel pretty good if you do that also. But he's not, it's like, we're talking about King Solomon. He's not in your house. You are in his house. Here we're saying that God is totally in our home, in our life. He's totally present. And therefore, how happy should someone be? How happy how happy should someone be when they realize that and they live life like that they know everything is okay always because God is always with him and he's with us in every detail. And on this, the rabbi said every day in the prayer, this is in the morning prayer before page 27, we say, Ashreinu mateh chalkeinu u'mayafir shesenu. A Jew is meant to say, how lucky am I? How fortunate am I that I was born into this opportunity, that my whole life is literally just a opportunity after opportunity to find God in my life and to realize God in my life and to be happy with God in my life. How fortunate am I? Just like a person is very happy when, no one wants anyone to die, but, sometimes someone calls you or says, hey, you inherited billions of dollars from your long-lost relative, right? How happy would you be? It's something I got for free that I didn't ask for. I didn't, right? I got this thing for free. How much more so we have to be happy that we have, that our fathers inherited to us, who total oneness with God. As Jewish people, we are able to live with this consciousness and we know it and we have it ingrained in us. That even no matter what, no matter where we are, we have the oneness of God. Now, the Alter Rebbe is actually saying something very interesting here. He says that with our brains, we would never be able to understand that God is truly everything. Because we mentioned on Friday, our minds are us. Our minds might be totally wrong. Our minds are subservient to us. Our minds are our choice if we follow, if we use it. Our minds are a tool we have, which we don't know if it's right or wrong, objectively. Subjectively, we don't have a choice, so we have to work with our mind. Our mind controls us. But the fact that we and everything in the world is nothing, right? If we understand it in our mind, and only God, so the whole existence in the world is nothing, all the evil in the world, everything is really nothing. If we understand it in our mind, there is one problem. It's all from our brain. If we question our brain, then it might not be true. So, it is Judaism's continuity and the belief in Judaism is only because we inherited it, and it's deeper than our mind. Our souls believe this, and that's why we're able to live like this, because our souls believe it, and our souls are able to get the truth. Our mind, on the other hand, our mind can always be questioned. Someone once wrote to the rabbi and they said, I'm trying to teach kids that God exists. Can you tell me an absolute proof that God exists? So the rabbi said, no. I can't tell you absolute proof that anything exists. Everything can always be questioned, right? So he said, no. He said, the way the mind is you can always question it. So if you give a proof that anything exists, maybe you're seeing it wrong. Maybe maybe it's a simulation. Maybe it's light. Maybe it's not really what you think, right? You can always question what you see. So here's what we're saying here. We're saying that the fact that we can meditate about this and it can transform our life is not just because our mind power can always be questioned. The truth is our soul has this handed down to us. Our soul believes this and has it handed down to us, and therefore we can live life with it. That's what we're saying here. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. So the Rebbe says, I can't give you an absolute proof. I can give you a proof beyond reasonable doubt. That's what, but you still question it, but, based on probability, it's unlikely. You can still question probability, right? Bring in more variables. But that is something more important we're saying here. So that is another thing that Judaism, in general, with keeping kosher and everything like that, it's important to remember that you're not taking on a new thing, which is like totally new. Like it is new in action, but your soul knows it. You're really just connecting with yourself. So that's just an important thing, I think, because when you take on a new thing, it can get frustrating. But when you know that deep inside your soul knows it and wants it, then whenever you get frustrated, you could say like, no, it's going to work out because deep inside, deeper than I can consciously relate to, knows this totally. And that's really the secret to continuity of Judaism, is not the fact that Jews are smart or rich or run the banks or anything like that. It's simply because our soul knows it and our soul does it. And our bodies eventually, it might take many years, but our soul eventually gets through a little bit and taps in, and it's a process. And it's always the battle. The soul might want to do it right away, and the body says, hey, if you do it right away, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's going to override me. So, but what we're saying here is our soul believes that the world is nothing and God is everything. And when we meditate it, we're not changing the way we think. We're allowing our soul to manifest itself. We're allowing our soul to manifest itself in our mind and our body. You get that? It's very interesting, actually. That's something you'll find in Chabad, kind of novel. We don't claim to say that Judaism always makes sense. On the contrary, we just claim to say...
I've had lots of stuff that doesn't make sense in the last year. So.
Well, we just claim to say that Judaism is a soul thing. And our life purpose and our life goal is our soul is going to break into our consciousness. And our goal in learning all this is to welcome it versus fight it. Because when you fight it, it's more painful. When you welcome it, it acclimates easier, and you're aware of it. You're aware that there's something higher than you, which is part of you. Okay. So V'zeh Shem Razal, this is what the rabbis say in the Talmud. Taryag Mrs. Nitan Yisrael. There were 613 given to the Jewish people. It's very hard. 613 mitzvahs. It's very difficult. Habakkuk, this prophet came. He said, no, all 613 mitzvahs are one mitzvah. What is it? V'tzadik b'emunasa yichya. If you want to be righteous, you have to have faith. If you have faith and you believe in all the mitzvahs, and then you realize that the world is nothing, and the purpose of the world is to do mitzvahs, and then you start doing mitzvahs. If you don't believe the world is to do mitzvahs, then every time you do a mitzvah, you're fighting your animal soul, right? You're fighting it because you're saying, I'm going to do something selfless. And you say, no, I need the money for this or that, or whatever it is. I can't buy a lulav, whatever it is. This is faith alone. If you meditate on the world and God, as we said before, how God is the only real existence, then nothing can bother you from doing a mitzvah, because the whole world is really just a mitzvah opportunity place to make a dwelling place for God. So the Alter Rebbe elaborates, when your heart is happy and joyous with the faith of one God, with true joy, and that's your only mitzvah. My only mitzvah is to be grateful and happy that God is with me always, and the whole world is really a fake. Someone asked me, said, according to Judaism, is the world a simulation? I said, well, yeah, kind of. So he said, wow, according to science, there's very high probability that it's a simulation as well. And he showed me some articles. So, when you have the joy and you know that, and it's ingrained into you, when you know that, and when you have that ingrained in you, that the whole world is really just a place to make a dwelling place for God, and it's really just a godly place, and the only thing that I'm here for is to bring and connect to God and do mitzvahs in this place, then you'll no longer look at mitzvahs as backbreakers. You'll wake up in the morning and you'll say, what mitzvahs can I do today? What opportunities can I have? Mitzvahs become opportunity, because that's what the world is made of. When it's the opposite, when it's like, I have my life, and then Judaism comes and we have to work out an agreement, how much of my life do I give to Judaism and how much do I keep to myself? So then the mitzvahs are heavy. But when we realize that we don't actually have our own life is just a godly opportunity to do mitzvahs in this world and to serve God and connect to God in this world. So then every mitzvah is joyous. When you have to buy something for Judaism, it's like, wow, I get to spend money. God gave me this money, and I get to spend it for Judaism. I get to use it for Judaism. So that's what we're saying here, and this is a very fundamental chapter, in my opinion, in modern Jewish living, that we are all born with a strong sense of entitlement. I have my rights, but really in Judaism, we're not so into rights. We're into opportunity, and that's what we're created for. And when we realize it and when we internalize it, it builds a joyous relationship with God. All right, any questions?
No.
So we'll stop here. I mean, a lot of pain that we have, a lot of times, a sense of entitlement, and